I'm Amber Nolan. I'm the user engagement specialist for Elsa. And so today I'm just going to talk a little bit about how to use the workflow stages, and things of that nature. Okay. As I've just mentioned, we'll go over the workflow stages, how to send chapters in the workflow, where to go if you need help and support, and then also we'll move into a quick Q&A. So this session is meant to be short, just a quick overview. And if you would like to drop off after the demo, please feel free to do that. If not, then you're welcome to stay on for the Q&A. Okay. So now you should be able to see Elsa, and you should come to the project, what we call the project overview screen. And so from here, you can see all of the workflow stages outlined at the top. And then you can also see the status of where the chapter is in the workflow. I'm working from a contributor view. If you are an author or editor, you will have a more full view with all of the chapters in the project listed out. As a contributor, you'll only see the chapters that are available to you. So again, this is contributor view, and you can see at the top the different workflow stages. So we have not started, which means that a chapter has not entered a workflow stage. We have contributor drafts. So this is where contributors do their first round of writing prior to having an editor review. Then we move into initial editor review, where the editor takes the first pass at reviewing the contributor's work, offers suggestions, things of that nature. Revised draft. So after the editor reviews the chapter, they'll send it back to a contributor so that they can complete edits. And then the editor will make their final review and final editor review stage, and then move it to an Elsevier staff member for their review, who will then send it on to production. So it's important to remember that different projects can have different workflow stages or a different ordering of workflow stages. So for example, a project may have 2 contributor draft phases. Oftentimes we'll see that there's just a plain review stage. So after maybe an editor reviews or before an editor reviews, they can have an external reviewer review a chapter, and they will, and that will just be titled review. So that's something to keep in mind, that if your project doesn't look exactly like this, that may be because you have a different workflow set up on your project. For due dates, these are entered by an Elsevier staff member. So an editor or author can't enter due dates. Those need to be entered by an Elsevier staff member, and those will be reflected down here. If the chapters are overdue, you'll see that they have a little warning symbol next to them. Okay. So that's a little bit about the review stages. I want to talk about how to actually send a chapter in the workflow. So again, this is contributor review. So you can send a chapter in a couple of different ways. So the first way would be from this more options icon. So if you click on this icon and click send to stage, you'll see that it populates the different stages of the project. You can send a chapter forwards or backwards in the workflow, depending on, if someone needs to access it or you need to go backwards for some reason, you can do that, but you can also skip steps, move things forward. One thing I want to point out is, again, staff review is basically a final stop for a chapter. So once you send a chapter to staff review, it would require an Elsevier staff member to send it back. So oftentimes we'll see people might send, an author might send a chapter to staff review before it's ready, and then the Elsevier staff member has to send it back. This is really meant for editors and authors to send on once the chapter is finalized and complete and ready to be sent for production. So I just want to point that out. We'll go ahead and send this chapter forward to initial editor review. You can notify by email. You can enter a chapter note in this field. And you can go ahead and just press send, and that will send the chapter forward. We'll see the chapter note appears in this chapter note column, and anyone on the project should be able to see the note, and it's accessible just by clicking on that message icon. So that's sending from the more options modal. If you send from, you can also send from within the workflow. It does the same thing, but it only moves to the immediate next step. So you'll see this blue arrow here that goes ahead and moves the chapter just one step. So this will move to revise draft stage, and it will just move it one step forward. So that's another way to move the chapter. And then I'll also point out here, so you can see location. This is if this will identify if there are other parts of the table of contents. So if you have front matter or back matter, if you have multiple sections or units or parts, that will be reflected here. The currently editing column, this shows who is currently working on a chapter. And then the responsible editor. So if you're an editor, you can assign, or if you're an editorial team, you can assign one particular editor to a chapter, and they will basically be the point of contact for that chapter. All editors on the project will still receive notifications when a chapter is ready for review, but you can designate a responsible editor, and then if you wanted to, you could also filter and identify, filter out any chapters that you're not responsible for through this table filters and view button. In a similar vein, I will point out that once a chapter is sent in a workflow stage, all of the members of that stage, so if you're a contributor, this would be a contributor draft stage. If you're an editor, this would be an initial editor review stage. All members of that stage will receive an email notification letting you know that the chapter is ready, and then whoever is the first to access the chapter, they will then lock the chapter to themselves, and they can work until they choose to share the chapter. And you'll be able to see that. I'll show you. I'll go back in a second. There will be an icon here, and you can also tell from this project overview if someone is working in the chapter. So I'll go ahead and click into the chapter and just show you really quickly how you can send the chapter during the write, like while you're actually working in the write space. So you'll see in the chapter. So this is the actual write space. And then once you are ready to send the chapter, there's a couple of things to point out. So if you just want to have a co-contributor, for example, view the chapter, you can click version and share, and this will create a read-only version of the chapter that another contributor can access within the same workflow stage. If you'd like to move the chapter further down the line, so to an editor, or if you're an editor, you want to move it to staff review, you click the send button. It will tell me, okay, I have some alerts on the publishing assistant down here. If you click got it, it will open the publishing assistant. If you click send anyway, this will open up the modal window to select a workflow stage. And so we can go ahead and then send to, for example, initial editor review, click send, and the chapter will move forward in the workflow. So in this case, I might have to just close out of it, and we'll go back to the project overview. We'll see that the chapter has been sent to initial editor review. Okay. And so you'll also see that I've lost access. The chapter is now grayed out because it's in the editor review stage. And so as a contributor, I'm not able to access it here. As I mentioned earlier, if someone is working in the chapter, you will see an icon that is an I with a slash through it, and that indicates that someone is working. If there is an image of a person here and an outline of them, that just shows that you are currently working in the chapter. And really quickly, I'll also point out that if you're an editor, you'll have a few more options in this modal window. So you'll be able to assign a responsible editor, and you'll have a few more options here. But that is sending a chapter in the Elsa workflow. So I'm going to go ahead and pause here and take questions. If you want to drop off, please feel free to do that. Otherwise, you're welcome to just unmute yourself or to share any questions in the chat. Thank you so much. Thank you for attending. Okay, well, if there's no questions, I'm going to go ahead and close out here. I appreciate you taking the time to attend, and thank you so much.